appreciate it. That was powerful, very powerful. Ed, a great man, a great mentor, a great businessman. He's also really skilled in jiu-jitsu, and he could put you in a pretzel really easy, and amongst other positions that don't feel good. Great man. So cool. Thank you. Thank you to everybody who's spoken so far. I'll keep saying thank you. I'm a thankful person. Real quick, as we keep going, and we don't have much longer. Thank you for bearing with us. Thank you for being part of this. If there's any students out there that want to come up and say a little something, we would love to hear from you. What's going on in our schools today. It's been some years since I've been in school, so we need that 411. All right, let's keep this going. Next man, I've known since I was a kid. Coached me 2 years in high school. Great mentor, a great mentor of many kids. Played football at Portland State. Coached at Milwaukee High School for over 25 years. Ken Buckles.
Yeah, I'm a retired teacher and football coach, taught weight training and assistant wrestling and track, and I coached and taught both Corey and Trey's older brothers. I've known their mom forever, and because my father was a Marine in the Korean War, I didn't know this growing up as a child in the late 50s and 60s, but he suffered from post-traumatic stress, and while I was teaching and coaching, he took his life. And that led me to trying to understand, I grew up, I was very lucky the last year of the draft. Nobody wanted to go to Vietnam. It's hard to understand now for people who don't know it, but it was like, oh my gosh, what are we doing over there? We don't, and we've seen it again, with Iraq. So I started a program at Milwaukee High School going on 25 years ago, bringing veterans in so we could just honor them and thank them. Because if you learn the history, you'll find out that there's a lot of poor white people that join the military and a lot of people of color, that's their way out. The highest percent of service in the nation is Native Americans. Out of every 1,000 Americans who serve in the military, only one will serve in the military. Out of every 1,000 Americans. It's with Native Americans, it's out of every 88, one will serve. Why? A lot of it is they honor their warrior culture, but most of it is it's a way out. And because of what we've done, we've gotten to meet a lot of veterans of color. I knew where I taught, it was a very diverse high school, and I had to reach out and find veterans of color. I didn't know a lot of this stuff. Very lucky to get to know and become very good friends with 9 different Tuskegee Airmen, 5 different Navajo code talkers. We've had veterans of every race come from all over, from World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Asian Americans, Japanese 442nd, Chinese Americans, Muslims that have served even in Vietnam. I mean, I could go on, and I've been recording their stories, and I started writing a book that's been working on it for 10 years, and I'm so upset and fired up about what's going on, and some of the friends I have in these times, I want to confront them, and there's something like, there's this voice saying, no, you get the book out first, and then hopefully I can tour around and talk, because every one of these American veterans of color, it doesn't matter when, it doesn't matter if it was World War I, World War II, doesn't matter if it's Iraq and Afghanistan, every one of them have stories of being treated with racism before they served, while they served, and after they served. And if you read the history, how shocking it is, and when is it ever going to change? Highly decorated hellfighters from World War I, the all-black battalion, coming home in their uniforms, dragged off of trains and lynched. Next year, the 100th anniversary of Tulsa, Black Wall Street. Start Googling and look at the history that we've never been taught of communities being looted and burned and destroyed in the last 100 years. And so I'm trying to tell people this book is going to come out because it's going to expose it. And I want people to read it and say, oh, wow, I didn't know this. I could go all day with these horrible, horrible stories that all of those veterans of colors went through. Unbelievable stories. And you say, my gosh, why does this keep happening? Okay, a thing that really upsets us is we go to church, and it's a diverse church. We've had several of people we have become friends with and close with come up and try to tell us and tell my wife over here, African-American lady, who I coached her son, and she set us up on a date 14 years ago. But anyway, over and over, these stories over and over. So anyway, I try to say things like, have you seen the documentary The 13th? How many have seen that? You've got to see that, because it starts. And like they said, the gentleman that talked about losing both his sons and the other gentleman, Wes Lynn, it keeps happening. Then there's another, that movie's amazing. Then we said, okay, why don't you watch Just Mercy? Just Mercy with Jamie Scott. And it comes out and says, the white sheriff who was openly racist and didn't care and flaunted it in front of everyone. You find out he just retired 2 years ago, 2018, with full benefits, and he got away with this stuff. So, I got confused that the white church members coming up and trying to tell her that black lives don't matter, all lives matter, and we're not racist. And I've had you're a racist if you say black lives matter. And I go, being the football player and all that, the adrenaline is still in there. I want to just, and I have to compose myself and control. But I want to tell you, let's talk about the history of Christianity in this country. History. You've got to read the history. I'm reading a book written in 1855 by a highly educated and a minister black man whose parents escaped from the largest plantation in Maryland in the 1820s. It's called The Memoirs of a Fugitive Slave. He was 2 years old when they escaped and got to New Jersey. They were not welcomed in the 1830s. The hatred, they said, was more intense than how they were treated on the plantation. All the whites hated them, would not help them. It was so bad, they said, let's go to New York. There's over 20,000 blacks, freed blacks, living in New York. It was worse in New York. Then I found out, he said, only one Christian church helped them, or they wouldn't have survived. Helped them with food and shelter and given them jobs. It's the Quakers. The Quakers is the only Christian denomination that has stood by them for 400 years and said this is wrong. So then I read this part and I'm ready to just have a heart attack. Did you know how the Christian churches in New York and New Jersey made their money? They had their own crews that would go out and find escaped slaves, turn them over to posses from Christian churches in the South so they'd all get a cut. Oh, we caught this escaped slave. Okay, you give us this money. It'll tithe for our church. Thank you. We'll take it for our church, and then we'll make money. We'll tell the plantation owner, we have your escaped slave. Okay? They had a celebration of life when they died back then. His father died in 1850. His mother died in 1852. They had a celebration of life. They believed in God. They believed in Jesus. They'd learned and studied the Bible. You know why? Living back then, even freed people, freedmen, were captured because they couldn't find someone and said, here, take them. He's black. So freedmen were sold in the name of Jesus to raise money for their churches. And I'm reading this and it's shocking. And I said, when has it changed? When has it changed? So now we're at a point right now, such a challenge, because we were talking about one of the teacher coaches who I love. They wrestled for him. Great guy, but gosh, he's a strong Christian, but he's so far to the right. and the stuff he puts on Facebook. He called me a couple weeks ago. He goes, Ken, you wouldn't believe all the Milwaukee Mustangs that used to love me. They hate me now and they're unfriending me. And I'm going, duh. You know, so it's like we have a challenge. We can read and hear these stories, tragic stories and injustice, but us white people, we have to do more. And another thing that's shocking, 7 out of every 10 American white males supports Trump. 7 out of 10. It's baffling. And standing by him and all this stuff, we see this evil and corruption today, and I'm sitting here saying, nothing has ever changed in history. Nothing has ever changed. And once again, we have this amazing challenge before us, and everyone must do their part. I mean, we have to. We owe it to our kids and grandchildren. And we're not going to end it because they're so entrenched in their hatred. We have to, one at a time, keep moving forward. I was very blessed through my wife, who I'll introduce. She grew up in Atlanta, and through her, I got to personally meet John Lewis. And I'll let her go. Thank you for your time. This is Melinda Buckle.